Welcome to the Iron Breed Podcast. My name is Austin, and here with me again today is
Gerard, what's going on, everyone? How we doing today, people?
we are doing good. It's always good in this hood. Left in the hood, he's up to no good. Uh,
Austin, you've been having the zingers on the intro, man. I can't keep a straight face.
I'm having a hard time keeping a straight face just thinking about our topic. Um, Not that it's an inherently funny topic, because it's really not. But to me, it's funny. I think to Gerard is maybe a little funny too, because we've lived through a little bit of this. We're talking about toxic relationships. How do you know that you're in one? Who's bringing what to the relationship? How you let it affect you, your life? And like, I just want to say this real quick. You all know that meme with that dog that's sitting in the room that's on fire. Everything's on fire, and he's just sitting there, and he's like, "This is fine." That's what's being in a toxic relationship. It's like, leave you and let's get going.
Exactly. So here, what are the early signs, traits, and habits of a toxic relationship? Well, both me and Austin kind of know this, and we're not going to, talk about the people or the individuals we were in these relationships with, because you know what? Honestly, they learned things and grew from stuff like this as well. But I think at any point in time, everyone goes through a bad relationship, or even it gets to the point where it's a toxic one. It's something so vile and miserable. You're like, how did I ever end up in a situation like this? Some early signs that you can be aware of is, are you sacrificing things, qualities, enjoyments, luxuries of your life to be with this person? Are you doing things for this person that you would not otherwise normally do? Um, do you find yourself put into situations where you feel uncomfortable, that saying no, or oh no, I can't do that, is going to lead to an argument, a negative situation, and otherwise frustration from the other individual? um, Traits would be how you communicate with one another. If you can't simply address or say something as normal as, hey, I don't want to do that this weekend, or I don't really appreciate when you talk to me like that. Red flags starting to go up. Um, and that seeps into the habits of, how you treat one another, how you share each other's time, and what you do. And I think what a big problem with that is because we sacrifice what we're used to and what we are on our own, because we have this growing fear of being lonely, and the option of loneliness is so much worse than being with this person. Oh, it's okay that they do this, or she says this, he says this, because I have this person. But the fact of the matter is, if you are sacrificing all the things that you could actually find that make you happy, that bring you value, to be with this person, this relationship with that person is now otherwise devaluing from everything else in your life. And that's a tricky spot to be in, because the fact of the matter is, we all settle for some level of comfortability. We like to be comfortable. And even if we're in an uncomfortable situation with a person who's not maybe treating us as best as we think we deserve, or on the flip end, we're actually now the one not treating that person as best as they deserve, because we've brought our own toxicity into the relationship. We grow comfortable to it. Breakups are hard. Change is hard. Anything in life is just really hard to go through. So what do? We stay in the situation we know. I can't believe she said that this weekend. I can't believe he did that, or he's texting or talking to. And it's this vicious cycle that we just roll and roll into, until eventually it escalates to a boiling point where usually you lose yourself along the way, and something pops and blows up. And next thing you know, you've now had a relationship with this person that you said you love so much, you care so much about, and now you guys don't even speak to each other anymore. And that right there is like a quick synopsis of, if you were to make a diagram chart of a toxic relationship. It's fine, fine, fine. Oh crap! Oh, boom.
Fun. Uh, no, and there's so many interesting things that Gerard brought up, and I think the sticking to what we know is so huge, because I know, even speaking for myself, there was a period of time where when I was debating what I should do, I was like, well, at least I know what I'm getting with this. I don't know what I'm getting with other stuff. I look back now and be like, do you know how stupid and crazy that is? To be like, oh yeah, this person's treating me like shit, but you know what? I'm okay with it because I know what I'm getting. Oh my gosh. That's just, it's crazy. That's why, to me, this episode now, being able to reflect on, you know, my past year or so of my life, just makes me laugh. Because it's funny now, there's no hate. Yeah, everything needs to happen for reasons, so that we can grow from it and we can learn from it and we can become better. And so that way we can take from those experiences and go into our next relationship with whoever that person may be, and not bring the same toxic behaviors, or at least now we know, you know, what we're looking for. So a lot of times, like, how do we end up in these situations? So a lot of times people end up in toxic relationships, and this isn't always completely true for everybody, but in some situations it's because you don't truly love yourself the way that you need to. And so the first moment anybody else is out there and they show you love, or they treat you whatever, or you think that's what makes you happy and that's what you need for your internal happiness, even though you're not internally happy with yourself or love yourself. And so we become attached to that, and we're depending on somebody else for our own happiness, which is so crazy because nobody can make you happy other than yourself. And that's why we end up sticking with these things, and that's why we start ignoring these red flags, because it's like, okay, well, maybe they do this, but I'm so infatuated with this person, or the fact that they love me and they see me for who I am, and they still love me anyway. So we a lot of times ignore these red flags, or we put up with their super awful behaviors. I mean, and these behaviors can vary. Everybody's going to have different red flags to them. Everybody's going to, like, sometimes you're going to have a different thought process. Everybody's going to value different things. So we put up with behaviors that we shouldn't, and we put up with being treated that we shouldn't, because we're too afraid to be alone and we get too much value from being with somebody else. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. It's a big pill.
Yeah.
Don't make you drink your water because you might choke. So.
Yeah, that's a tough one, to have that talk with yourself, and it definitely, I've from friends and individuals and hearing a lot of people reflect on the negative relationships they've been in. Is a lot of times it doesn't come from a place where you're lonely. You have all these ideas of what a good relationship would be, and then maybe you do meet that one individual who actually shows you some more time and effort than anyone else does in that moment, and you're already at a place where your own self-confidence is like, it's sub level, and so you gain this confidence and you're feeling better. You guys are going through that initial honeymoon phase and things are going well, and then slowly little things start to occur, and you notice some bickering maybe, or some behavior that you don't necessarily like, or they point some stuff out about you. And what we see is that it's a snowball effect. It's very small at first, but if it's not addressed and it's not communicated on and it's never worked on, there's no improvement, it grows, it festers, and it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it usually does. It reaches that boiling point where something happens and one individual can't stand what another individual does. And probably one of the worst things you can do is let it get to that point and keep going without addressing it. It's hard to address it at the moment. It's hard to actually take the effort and energy to work on what's wrong right then and there, than to, oh, it's okay, I forgive you. Well, you don't really. You're holding on to something, and you let it fester and grow into another event. And that's how it continues. That's how that cycle continues until it does blow up in your face.
And to add in another thing that you should also be kind of like on the lookout for, but if somebody is, exhibiting a behavior that you don't like, or they're doing something that you don't like, and you express that to them, and if, you make it aware, you do have that difficult conversation, and they keep doing it over and over again, then they really don't respect you. And now by staying with an individual that doesn't respect you, you're not really respecting yourself either. And that is also a really hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's a big time gut checks. It's not easy. It's never gonna be. But here's the thing: it's better to do it in the moment than to convince yourself that it's okay and you can get along with it because you have this growing attachment to this idea of being in a relationship with a person. And this can vary too on the level of how manipulative that person is, the toxicity that's in the relationship. Like, there's going to be a million different factors, but chances are is if you're in a relationship with this person and they don't want you to go, like they've got their hooks, sunk in, and they like where they're at right now, um, they're going to make it that much more challenging for you to address those things that do make you uncomfortable, to say things that, really aren't out of line or out of pocket. It's just truthfully how you're feeling, but it's all of a sudden, boom, it's a huge reaction. It's something to the point where you feel like you're walking around eggshells the whole, period of your relationship because everything's fine and happy until I do that one thing and pop, it's blown up in my face. And so that definitely, relates to, are you sacrificing your daily needs and wants and becoming uncomfortable? So this can be different for everyone, every relationship, and it all depends and varies. But like I know specifically, I think being Austin can both relate to this with like being avid weightlifters and trainers, and when someone is like, why do you train so much? You're at the gym all the time, or it's like it's not that's wrong or something, but it's like, okay, maybe this is a person who doesn't realize that has a tremendous amount of value, intrinsic reward for doing that behavior and option. And then maybe you can also realize, all right, yeah, I am spending 3.5 hours at the gym. Maybe it's seeing it from her end or something. She just wants to go on a movie night or something like that. There's always going to be um, a push and a pull, a give and a receive. And what Austin hit on earlier was super crucial, is you can never find your happiness from someone else.
Can I?
Only way you can. Go ahead, go for it.
Well, finish your statement and then let me jump into something here.
Okay. You can never find your happiness from someone else. True happiness in a relationship is only when you share each other's happiness together. So neither individual is finding it in the others. You are simply sharing your happiness that you have with your own self with another person. Because the second you have that happiness, it's attached to that person, and that's where you find your source of it. They do something you dislike, or it goes awry. Your source of happiness just became altered. It just became poisoned. Another hard pill to swallow.
Which is a perfect segue into what I wanted to say. We are not lifeguards. We're not in the business of saving lives or fixing other people's problems. So once again, that kind of ties into, if you're not internally happy, sometimes maybe your partner is the one who's not super internally happy. You could be as well. And all you want to do is fix your partner's problems. Well, I hate to break it to you, but they're not your problems to fix. And you can't do that. And you can't help someone else be happy either. It's not your job to fix everybody's problems. It's your job, though, to take care of yours. Everybody's going to come into a relationship with a certain amount of baggage. That's just how it is. And especially, I know the older we all get, right? The more relationships we've been in, the more shit we've been through, the more shit we've dealt with. Everybody's going to have a different level of baggage. Some people are going to have a shit ton of baggage. Some people aren't going to have a lot. Some people were going to have a lot, but then they did the work that was necessary to work through it. Other people just aren't going to do anything about it. And they're just going to bring it in, and they're going to, like, almost like when you get into a hotel room, when you're unpacking for a vacation, or, you get there for a vacation, first thing you do, open up that briefcase and everything's everywhere. That's what some of them do with their baggage. Like, in other people, they're more efficient packers and they know how to handle things. All right, hey, here's my briefcase, but I'm going to put everything away right away because I know what to do with it and I know how to handle this situation. It's gonna be different. Everybody's gonna have a different level. It's what you're deal with and what you're able to accept and what you're able to put up with. But it's not your problem and it's not your job to fix other people's baggage. It's your responsibility, though, however, to fix yours. And if you're personally bringing in some baggage and you know that, maybe you don't know that. I mean, a lot of times people try to jump into relationship to relationship to fix the issue. Maybe for some people, maybe that does work out. Maybe it's just truly you guys weren't compatible and you immediately met somebody that was the most compatible person for you and somehow stuff just clicked. But sometimes people just do so in order to just not work through their own baggage. Like there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of all sorts of stuff that goes through. Breakups aren't easy. Usually they cause a lot of trauma, or super toxic relationships do create a decent amount of trauma. And that trauma needs to be worked through in order to be able to have a healthy relationship moving forward. But if you don't spend the time working on that, or like doing the work on yourself to realize, okay, these are the things that I do that are wrong, or like realizing like, okay, these are definitely my toxic traits and things that I do that aren't super great. I never put the time in for that. All I'm doing is setting up my next relationship for failure because I'm going to bring the exact same shit to that. And maybe you have a super nice person that just really doesn't deserve that. And you're bringing that on them. And that's a really tough situation.
Another hard pill to swallow. It's so true when you go from this awful situation, I can't stand that person, I'm never speaking to them again, and you put all that blame on them, and it's them, and they treated me this way, and it went this way because of all that, and then you meet another person who shows you some time of day. And you're like, wow, you're so not what that person is. Or maybe you actually do see similar qualities, but you go and you take what a lot of times people call your poison, your toxicity, and you seep it into that relationship now. And one of the worst things you can go through, and one of the worst things you can experience, is where you went through a toxic relationship, and you know it really was you went through a lot, and then you find yourself being the toxic person in the next relationship, bringing that into it, being the one who kind of plants that seed, waters it, and watches it grow, because you know that it's something that you took from previous experience and you brought it into this new relationship without having to give it a chance to be its own thing, to grow on its own. And that's challenging because a lot of times people don't want to reflect their faults and don't want to have the honest conversations about what they do wrong and things that they need to address. But those are some very real self-reflective conversations that you need to have. You need to have on a daily basis. That's just a gut check of who you are and as a person. And we've spoken previously about an accountability mirror, where you actually look in the mirror and you tell yourself what you dislike and how you're going to change it. But also just knowing that it's a daily process to fix those things. Like if you think about it, you spent your whole life not addressing them. You're not just going to address them one day and boom, they're resolved. It's just, if you really want to address them, you got to address them every day for the rest of your life. Some days are going to be worse, some days are going to be better, but that's truthfully how you can focus on taking care of yourself when you do enter a new relationship. And by all means, people, please make some time for that. We know you just went through a year, however many months of being with a person. It feels uncomfortable to just be on your own again. Every song or every movie or color or smell makes you think of that person. But guess what? It's going to be okay. You'll get through that phase. You will find things that you value and you enjoy on your own, and things that you realize, wow, I really haven't been able to do this in a while, or I forgot how much I love doing this, or this is a new thing I enjoy so much. And you'll learn you can be just as happy on your own rather than finding that source from someone else.
Yeah, it's actually like an opportunity to kind of create your life the way that you want it. Because a lot of times, obviously, relationship is full of compromise, and that's how it needs to be. Obviously, everybody needs to compromise to some degree in a relationship to be able to make it work. And when you're on your own and you're just like out of a relationship, it's like get back to doing things that you like. Go do whatever you want. Like you like movies, go to movies alone. Who cares? Like that way there's no one to annoy you or no one to talk to you through the whole movie. that's pretty sick. Nobody to share the popcorn with? How could you go wrong with that? Like, damn, sounds pretty great to me. Uh, oh, there's stuff that you always wanted to do, but you would never have the time, or oh, there was something that you liked, but your significant other never liked, and you never did it, or like certain foods that you never ate because the other person never liked it. Now's your chance to go do it. And guess what? When in the process of doing it, you might find someone else who loves that exact same thing. So you never know. It's just really take the time to focus on yourself and rebuild yourself and build the life that you want, like you can have whatever you want. You just got to build it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's not easy. It goes to a lot of growing pains that go in that process. But from that and really learning who you want to be, it also allows you to have that self-discovery to realize when you do meet someone who you want to be with and the life that you do want to share with one another. Because hopefully by that time you've met someone who's also gone through that process. And here's the thing is like, I especially like I give a shout out to my mom and dad for their relationship and what they've gone through and what they've taught me about it is it's always been something that's grown. The day you meet is never going to be the same as that next year, month, 20 years down the road. That has to be someone, a person you can grow with and have a recognition that, okay, like there's a healthy compromise, but not one of us is seeking everything out of just that other individual. And that's tough, man. I mean, you look at like the divorce rates are at the highest they've ever been at because we have this idea that it's romance and love and passion and oh, it's me. And then it's like, reality. And I wasn't expecting this. And we're 3 years into our marriage. It's not the same as we first met. We don't go on dates. And, it's just not the same.
Yes, right there,
Yeah, yeah. It's like you gotta grow through that. You gotta grow through the crappy parts, the parts you're not that fun with. If that's the person you really, you know, do want to share your life with. And I I don't know if it's the best thing, but I always I found it to be pretty true. Um, it's not whose shit you can put up with; it's whose shit you can put up with the most.
Yeah, that's pretty useful. I hear that a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you listen to this day, people just recognize that stuff. Take some time to reflect. Go back on relationships you have been in. If you're in a relationship right now, how you treat each other, and do that self reflection. And have those hard conversations, and take the time to, if you are with someone, to work on that relationship, but not to be, afraid or completely discredit the idea of if there's something that you need to end so you can go ahead and be a more healthier person on your own, then that's something you need to go ahead and do.
And if you just got out of a relationship or going through a breakup or something like that, just know it will get better and everything will be okay. And at some point, you will meet somebody that makes you forget that that person even existed. So, you just got to keep your head up, keep working on yourself. Do you, boo. It'll all get better.
That's so true, man. So if you enjoyed this, you can please go ahead, share it to a friend, like, subscribe, drop us a comment and a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get this out to more people. Let us know what you'd like to hear from next. Me and Austin are always looking for more ideas for our podcast and what you are interested in hearing about. Go ahead, Austin, wrap it up for us with a finish.
Finisher. Well, it's a hot girl, or it's hot boy and girl summer. So, get out there, enjoy your lives. Hopefully we're not still locked down by the time the podcast release. But anyway, thanks for listening. It's been fun. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening to the I Agree podcast.